So the match between the Springboks and Portugal has just ended. For the first time ever, these two sides went head to head, and the end score in this matchup, 64 points to 21. That scoreboard is lying, but of course with how quickly South Africa were scoring points near the end, it was hard to keep track of how many they actually had. But there were 10 tries for South Africa in this game, 3 tries for the Portuguese. They were still competitive at time, as well as bringing up the first ever try in the South Africa versus Portugal history. But overall, it was a fast-paced game. South Africa, there were a few players who really stepped up. I think have proven themselves as definite candidates for that Rugby Championship squad. But there were also other players that maybe didn't quite perform the way that they would have liked. But looking through at the try scorers for the South Africans, Makazole Mapimpi managed to get himself the hat-trick, scoring 3 tries and having a solid game. Out on the wing, we saw Jan-Hendrik Wessels score himself a try on debut. We saw Pepsi Buthelezi score. Kutli Arendse also getting himself the try. Ben Jason Dixon, Lucanio Arm, Andre Hikufenta, Juan Horn, both those two men on their debuts. And overall, the men who were making their debuts in this contest, I feel, really did step up. There weren't too many of them who weren't able to hang with Portugal throughout this match. And speaking of Portugal, we saw 2 tries for Dos Santos. He made his way off the bench early on in this game due to an injury. That was within the first couple of minutes, and that is actually what led to the red card of Andre Esterhuizen. Then the other try, Jose Duarte Madeira, was the man who did score it for the Portuguese. But that red card of Andre Esterhuizen, that is more than likely going to mean that he misses out on the first 2 games of the Rugby Championship. I do think red was a little bit harsh. I would have said yellow would have been fitting for that challenge. There were mitigating factors, I felt, that brought it down a little bit, but the decision was final, and Andre Esterhuizen having a very short day at the office for the Springboks. Alongside him, we also saw the yellow card for Juan Horn, and also one for Kutli Arendse for a crocodile roll. So the Springboks' discipline at times in this game let them down a bit, but something that certainly didn't let them down was the amount of possession that they had throughout this contest, having 60%, also having 724 running meters for the men in green and gold, 35 defenders beaten, 14 clean breaks. And I'll be honest, one of the stats that are quite interesting for this game is the Springboks tackling. They attempted 59, they missed 25. So I think overall, this was probably one of the lowest percentages for tackling that we've seen from the Springboks in an extremely long time. So that'll be a little bit of a concern, but that could also be because of these new players coming together, trying to gel as a unit. There were times where there were miscommunications, and Portugal certainly were packing a punch when they were on attack. We saw some great line breaks from them, 9 clean breaks in the game, and also 361 running meters for the Portuguese. So they were holding their own at times throughout this game. The scrums, I think that they were getting overpowered, though. In the breakdown, they weren't really able to match that physicality of the South Africans. But overall, a really entertaining game of rugby, and an extremely high-scoring one, as you can see, with 85 points being scored between the sides. But for these Springboks, they have some big decisions to make in terms of who are the players that they want to put into their Rugby Championship squad. The ones who I believe stepped up, Ben Jason Dixon, I thought was very strong in that number 7 jersey. Jan-Hendrik Wessels, for a man on debut, he looked like he had 50 caps, the way that he was patrolling around the field, having some great runs, working hard at scrum time. And then in the back line, Makazole Mapimpi was great. Kobus Reinach, I believe, did very well in terms of getting that fast ball moving. And someone else who did that extremely well was Morne van den Berg when he made his way off the bench. I would say that Mani Libbok, he is the question mark at the moment, because we saw Sasha Feinberg, Ungume Zulu. He made his way off the bench and had an insane impact, getting try assists, getting a 50-22. But Mani Libbok, his attacking was still good throughout this game. It's just the goal kicking was letting him down there a little bit. So I'm not sure what Rassi's plan will be. Do you go with Mani Libbok at 10 and put Sasha Feinberg, Ungume Zulu at number 15 as a possibility? Or do you go with Ungume Zulu at number 10 and maybe Libbok either off the bench, or maybe Andre Pollard does get that role? For the Portuguese, I felt like, Dos Santos, of course, off the bench did extremely well. Samuel Bento at number 15, also having a solid game, and then Manuel Pinto. It just seemed to be when Portugal got that ball moving through the backline, it was crisp, it was precise, and also those cross kicks were giving them a lot of meters that they were making throughout this match. But nonetheless, this is just a very short review of this contest. The Springboks in action in 3 weeks' time up against the Australians. We are going to be doing the live commentary for that as well as the squad update when they do announce their rugby championship team. But thank you all very much for tuning in. Do let me know what you thought of this match. I did see that Snyman actually got himself man of the match, which was a question we were asking near the end of the contest. Thank you all very much for tuning in, and I will see you all for the next one.